click on something to then like respond. And if you are not on the presentation, then I will like, do my best to like place that link in the chat as well. So we'll go ahead and get started. We're here to talk about HyperDocs history and primary sources and how we can mesh those together to get like this transformative trio to engage our students. So as you scroll down, there is a welcome session, the first part. There's a Google form. If you go ahead and click where it says welcome, it will bring you to a form. If you would go ahead and fill that out. The session is listed there if you would access that. That's the first part. You fill out that form. And then the second part of the welcome is this check-in. Again, if you click on that, it will bring you to a different Wakelet. So again, there's a welcome form. If you go ahead and click on that form. And just in case you are not on the presentation, I'll put that form link in the chat. And then the second one, go ahead and check in on the Wakelet. It will bring you here. And so I will actually put that link in the chat as well, just in case. When you get to that Wakelet, it's asking just to find out who's in this space. And so what you would do is go ahead and click Edit Collection in the top right-hand corner. I'm gonna go ahead and take this away and widen my screen. But you click Edit Collection, you come here to the plus sign. You want to click the second one where it's Add Text. A little text box will open up. Go ahead and check in. Tell me who you are. I'd love to find out who's in this space. What's filling your bucket at the moment? What's draining your bucket? Once you've done that, you can go ahead and click Done, and then we can see your responses. As you're doing that, I'll go ahead and introduce myself as you're letting me know who's in this space. My name is Leticia Citizen. I am an I-4 coach at Hawthorne School in Beverly Hills Unified School District in California. This is my third year in that position, but overall, I've been an educator for 21 years. I've taught kindergarten for 2 years, first grade for 7, and fifth grade for 9. I've worked in Pasadena Unified, Arcadia Unified, and then finally found my home currently in Beverly Hills Unified School District, again, as an I-4 coach, where we focus on instruction, individualization, inspiration, and innovation. I also like to tell people it's a fancy way of saying a technology coach. Also, I work with a special group of friends who we've created Equity in Action California, where we really talk about creating welcoming spaces, making those spaces equitable, whether it's in a classroom or at a conference, and just finding out who's visible, who's missing, and what we can do to work together. And then I'm the co-founder of Tech Teach Grow, which is an LLC. I also have like my information here that you can always access. These links, if you'll notice on the Wakelet, are clickable. And so like it sends you to my Twitter, to my Instagram, my LinkedIn. If you ever want to get a hold of me and we can chat and talk about all these things, I am always willing to do so. So I'll just go back and see. So it looks like we have a couple of people. This might refreshes. Thank you for joining. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Natasha. And Greg is here. So is Mary Ellen. And so thank you all for joining and sharing in that space. Recovering from spring break road trip. Nice. Yeah, we just finished spring break as well. And I did absolutely nothing work-wise, work-related. So that was a really nice break. Dog doing well after surgery. Oh, awesome, Patty. So glad that your dog is doing well. Or wait, that's Natasha. Your dog is doing well. Patty loves quilting and remodeling her house. Not having the time. Absolutely. I'm right there with you. Yes, we are in that boat together. So thank you all for sharing who's here. So I'm gonna go ahead and come back to the Wakelet as we go through this interactive presentation. So if you go back to your Wakelet after you finished filling out who's in this space, remember it moves in a linear fashion. So if you scroll up, we're going to come to this first part where if you would go ahead and explain your exposure to HyperDocs. So you will do so by clicking where it says HyperDoc exposure, and it will bring you to a Jamboard. If you are not familiar with Jamboard, you'll notice that there's some tools on the left-hand side. You want to hover over where it says sticky notes. Once you click that sticky note, then the space will appear, and that's where you can go ahead and type your response. So just take, yes, I will, Raul. Go ahead and just take some time and tell me what's your exposure to HyperDocs while I share the link with Raul. There you go. Oh, wait, nope, that's the wrong one, Raul, sorry. There it is. All right, so seeing a bunch of them, love the idea of not created one myself. You're welcome, Raul. So we've got some people that said that they're new to this, heard of them, but not familiar. Never used them before, excited for Ropes exposure. Awesome. So glad that we get to do that together. Never heard of it. I love newbies. I definitely love when newbies are here. Okay, Rayla, I'm presenting. Learn about them some, but haven't made one. Okay. All right, so thank you for sharing that. So it looks like we have a lot of newbies in here. All right, so I'm gonna go back to the Nearpod. If you want, you can make sure that you close those tabs since we won't be accessing them. All right, so now that you've given me some idea of what your exposure is to HyperDocs, which we look like we have a lot of newbies, so welcome. We're gonna go ahead and take some time to look at this image. On the Nearpod, or sorry, on the Wakelet, you can actually click on that image to make it larger so that way you can see. And I just want you to take a look and share what you notice and what you wonder. And then I want you to share those ideas. You'll notice that I have a Google slide deck that's here. Go ahead and click on where it says HyperDoc Examples and Wonders. It's going to bring you to a collaborative slide deck. And go ahead and pick a slide. I tried to move like the empty ones to the top. Choose an empty slide and then go ahead and click where it says text box. Make your text box here, and then you can go ahead and start typing. So go ahead and share. What are some things that you notice and what are some things that you wonder? And I believe we just had someone join us. Good morning. I've placed the link to the presentation in the chat for you. So glad that you could join us. So again, we are here on the Wakelet. We've scrolled to the part where you're taking a look at this image. You've clicked where it says HyperDoc Notices and Wonders, and it will bring you to a collaborative slide deck. Once you're on the slide deck, go ahead and choose an empty slide. Actually, I'll erase this so I won't take up that space. Once you're on the slide, then you'll come up and click text box. Make your text box and then go ahead and share what you notice and what you wonder. And so as you're doing that, I'll go ahead and take a look at some of your responses. So different boats, different groupings, absolutely. Facilitate instruction and modify the lesson to differentiate various different groups, student groups. Drive their learning and set the pace, absolutely, right? Like it actually allows a teacher to hand over the wheel to our students. And we are there to facilitate and guide them through. I like to always say HyperDocs are an experience for students. It's a true learning experience. Let's see. I'm still wondering what is the best process for creating them and finding the time. Yes, finding the time to create them for your class. I agree. And hopefully you'll leave with that today. Like what's some ideas about how to do that? I'll go ahead and admit more. What do you notice? Good collaboration. Good morning, Mark. I've placed the link to the presentation in the chat. It will bring you to a Wakelet. It's in a linear fashion. So you would scroll so that way you're moving everything up. We are in the space right now where we're looking at an image and talking about what we notice and what we wonder. So the after shows more engagement. The before has the teacher as the captain of the ship, right? Back is turned, not interacting. Let's see, tech difficulties or learning curve for using. Yay, someone turned on their camera. Hi. Is that a Nearpod shirt that I see you wearing? Let's see, how much time do they take and how can they be used in asynchronous instruction? These are all great questions and all great notices. So thank you for sharing all of these. We're gonna go ahead and make our way back to the Wakelet. And we're gonna move to the next section. So we've looked at your exposure. We've looked at some ideas, a visual, right? About what potentially HyperDocs can do for our students as well as for ourselves. And so now we're gonna move to the space of looking at what HyperDocs are and what they're not, right? So again, you can actually click on this image. It will bring it bigger for you so that way you can access it. So go ahead and take a look at this chart. And as you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and just talk about some things that I love to point out when I have people who will say, oh, well, HyperDoc is just, you know, a document with links. And so I have teachers that will just, you know, have a Google Doc or a Microsoft Doc, right? And they'll have like a couple of links there and they're like, yeah, I made a HyperDoc. And I'm like, let's go through the process, right? Because there's some like key points that are there. The first thing is that, yes, it definitely transitioned the teacher from being the gatekeeper, the holder of all the information, right? And just standing in front of the classroom and lecturing. And it really transitions so that way students are more involved in their learning, and that, yes, you give them these puzzle pieces that they get to really take time to engage with and explore, do some things like notice and wonder, get to annotate and pose their questions. And that will then lead them through these different processes to allow them to process their understanding, process what they're learning, be creative and like create something that shows what they're learning, be able to share with others, getting feedback, and then leading them to like their next steps. Also with HyperDocs, I love the idea is that as the teacher, I can actually look at the questions that students are posing on their HyperDocs that will then drive my next instruction or the next part of the instruction that I'm going to do with my students. So I always like to say like the key components for a HyperDoc is you're starting off with some type of information, and it's really important not to like put it all in there at one time. Okay, so you might have like 3 different, I don't know, primary sources where it's an image and maybe there's a song and maybe there's the lyrics that go with that song. Well, you don't want to place them all in that one HyperDoc for them to interact with, because then we're going to overwhelm our students. So you want to take those, actually with those 3 different pieces of information or those 3 pieces of primary sources, you're going to end up creating 3 HyperDocs. And that's because, like, again, you don't want to overwhelm them with all the information. You want to give them time to like really interact with it and soak it up. And then, you know, so they've consumed information. Now you want them to be able to process it, get down some thoughts that they have with it. You want them to make a connection to other things that you're also doing in the classroom. But the big part of that HyperDoc is then you want students to be able to create. And you want them to be able to create some type of, I don't know, if they're writing a song, or maybe, you know, they're going to a place where they're going to go look at more primary sources, pull from those sources to then say, hey, this also supports what I'm also learning. But there has to be some form of creating. And then they're going to take that creation and you want them to have a space where they get to share it. And so if you are in 3D, maybe you have them posting it around the classroom. So that way you do a gallery walk. Maybe you're leveraging these ed tech tools like Padlet and Google Slide Decks, where they can like go and place it there and they all get to see each other's work. But you want to put it in a space where students will be able to see each other's work. You can even take it a step further and have them share it with, if you are making global connections with other classrooms, that then students can also share their creation with those global peers as well. And so you want to be able to share, or you want your students to be able to share, because now you're going to get feedback and it doesn't always have to come from the teacher. So this is that nice part of now students are actually understanding the use of an audience and what that means. They, you know, I always say it transforms students and how dedicated they are to the work that they're creating, because now they know they're just not creating because Ms. Citizen said, but now they're creating because not only my peers going to look at it in my classroom, but, you know, I'm going to share it with parents. I might share with another class here at school, or you're going to do it globally. So you've got this consumption, you've got this processing, you're allowing them to create, you're allowing them to share. And then that next part of the HyperDoc that's really important is giving students time to reflect. And so they can do this individually, they can do this together as a class, they can reflect on not only what they just learned, but they can reflect on their process. They can reflect on looking at the feedback that they just received on their creation and how they're going to move forward, but really giving them time to reflect. And again, if you're in person, you can do this on, you know, in journals, postcards, Post-its, whatever that is, or leveraging technology. Again, you can set up a Google form, you can set up a Jamboard or a Padlet, you can do it on a Nearpod, on a collaborative slide, whatever that is, but giving them that space to go ahead and take time to reflect. You can always include in there where the teacher can do some quick like whole group instruction. But again, that should only be like 15 minutes of that. It should not be what guides and holds what's going on with this HyperDoc. And then ideally, you know, after they reflect, then you might have an extension. That extension could be a HyperDoc that you're going to do tomorrow that becomes like that new puzzle piece. And so really understanding that a HyperDoc, again, goes really beyond just setting up a a document where you've just got some links that students can click on, but it's actually taking them through this process. And again, they're doing this either individually or collaboratively with their class, and not with the teacher being there to be like, okay, now we're moving to step 2. Like, this is where they get to do it at their pace. You're giving them time. And again, it really comes down to you as the teacher and how you want to set that up. The next part that I've included are those key sections of a HybridDoc. And you'll notice that there are 7. The key are the 6: the engage, explore, explain, apply, share, reflect. The extend is not, you know, doesn't need to be there, but it's highly recommended as well. But here's the other thing I really want to give caution to those of you who are really trying it for the first time. Please do not, when you first, whether it's for you and this is your first time creating your own HybridDoc, or if you're an expert at it or you feel really good about it, but this is your student's first time with a HybridDoc, please do not do all parts. Do not do all 6 or 7. Only, I always suggest focus on 3. Because 1, if you're doing it from scratch, and I'm actually going to show you where you can go to a place where you can actually get some HybridDocs. Yeah, I always suggest, like, the first one that you do, take it from someone else, or sorry, borrow from someone else, right? And then you can manipulate it as you see fit to fit the needs of you and what your students are doing. But definitely do not do all 6. 1, to not overwhelm yourself, and number 2, not to overwhelm your students. We're asking them to do something completely new, in the sense that, like, they're not going to wait for you to stand in front of the room and feed them all the information, right? We're asking them to do all the work. Those who are typing and those who are writing are the ones who are doing all the learning. So we want to make sure that that's what we're allowing our students to do. But again, that we're not overwhelming them. So even for myself, although I've been using HybridDocs for a while, when it comes to when I first give that to my students, I always start off with just 3 parts. Thank you for those of you that are joining. I've placed the link for the presentation in the chat. So you'll notice I also included a doc here with all the parts that you can click on. You can also make your own copies so that way you have it, but it just kind of tells you what each part has, right? You want to start off with engaging them. You got exploring, where you're giving them like resources, videos, articles, music. You know, I love having my students listen to a song, and then I'll give them the lyrics afterwards. But that first time around, I'm just having them listen to the song and annotate or journal or do something with that. So that way they're processing their information. And then you've got an opportunity for students to explain, apply, where they're creating, sharing, reflecting, and extend. So again, if you're starting off for the first time with your students and even for yourself, maybe you just do something where you have them to engage, explore, and explain. And that's it. Maybe you just have them engage, explore, and then apply. Maybe you have them explore something and explain it and then share. And I always say a key thing is always have them reflect. Even if you have like the 3 other parts, reflection is always, I feel like it's always necessary. So especially if it's their first time, even you, I reflect with my students as well. So I'm like jotting down my thoughts, and then we sit around and we talk about that. Or if we're doing this on Zoom, like we have that moment to have that conversation. And again, it could be about like, especially after the first time, right? You can include some questions where you can ask like, how did you feel about this process? Like, at what point did you, feel frustrated, or what did you find that worked for you? But what's something that you might want to see differently in the future? Like giving them time to reflect not only on the process, but then also giving them time to reflect on what they've just learned. So again, I always like to suggest just start off with 3 parts in the beginning. So as we come back to the Wakelet, I've included where there's some HyperDoc templates. So go ahead and you can click the link that's here. It will actually take you to a website that the 3 HyperDoc ladies are known to house and to create. I know they're working on it. They've been like updating it nonstop, but there are some basic templates that are here. So you can go ahead and click on them, and they're there for you to customize as you see fit. So it'll bring you typically to a doc. My like internet is slowing down. Come on today. Gotta love it. So so you'll see there's a basic like skeleton here for a HyperDoc. Again, if this is your first time and your student's first time, the nice thing about this is you can take away the parts that you don't want to start off with them. And again, I keep stressing like that first time that you start to only do about 3 because I had like some ambitious teachers in my district where like someone went up, like 2 of them actually worked together, and oh my gosh, they did like 2 engages and 2 explores and 2 explains, and they went back to engage. Like they had like all these parts, and so when they came back to me, they were like, it was awful, and this is why. And I'm like, what happened? And they're like, first of all, we stayed up all night creating this. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, and the students were frustrated. They didn't even want to do it anymore. And I'm like, well, let me see. Like, I'm confused. Like, let me see. Well, it's because like they had all these parts. I'm like, even I'm overwhelmed by looking at this. So it was just one of those things where they were like, oh, we forgot that part. And so I say it all the time now, like just go with 3, start off with 3, just to try it out. Again, not only for yourself, but also for your students, and stay with that 3. Like maybe the next like 4 HyperDocs, you only do 3 parts, and then you start to add in 1 more each time and have that conversation again for students to reflect on, you know, what was different this time around? What did you notice that we inserted? And get them to understand where they're going. So please, please, please do not overwhelm yourself or your students. But these templates are here. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to go ahead and explore that. In case you're not on the presentation, I've placed the link directly to these templates. Take a look at them. If you're not familiar with how to like take your own copy, all you need to do, don't click on request edit access. Don't do that to the person, because that email is just going to go and it's going to sit and you're going to frustrate them. So come to file and then come to make a copy. And that's how you can go ahead and make that copy. Gloria! And so, yes, anytime that you have access to a template, sometimes it will like make you it'll force copy, so then it'll automatically do it for you. But again, go ahead and take a look at these samples. Find some, you'll see that they're quite different and they're awesome. But go ahead and come to file, make a copy. So I'll give you a couple minutes to do that, to explore those templates. Take them all, I say, make a folder, put them in there. If you have any questions, I'm sorry, I haven't even checked in. I've like looked at the chat, I haven't seen anything. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and place it in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourselves, I'd love to hear voices. And if you want to, go ahead and like save this link too, so that we have, but you'll have access to this HyperDoc or this presentation forever, so you can do that.
Hi, Letitia.
How are you?
I'm good. Sorry I came in late. Sorry.
No, I'm so glad that you made it. So good to see you. What time is it where
Thank
you
you.
are? What time is it?
It's 5:52 p.m.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad that you stay, that you're here. Probably like
Thank
dinner
you.
time where you are, but
Oh,
good
yeah. Good to see you.
to see you.
Mhm.
All right. So again, you will have access to these templates. They're always helpful. I love taking them and then manipulating them again to meet my needs, but they are there for you to access. So then, is there a sample rubric or the type of guideline for participation? I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Natasha. Um, I don't personally have one readily available. I can get that to you. I can send you a link later of a couple that I have. Um, but I don't think, I've never seen any on this site. Um, but I can get you some. I know that a lot of people use the 1 point rubric and they've got some different points. So I can share those with you afterwards. All right, so you're welcome. So then we're gonna go ahead and move next. The next part is platforms that you can use to house your HyperDocs. Now, ideally, most HyperDocs that you'll see are on a Google Doc, right? Like even when you came to the templates, that's what they're giving you, these templates that are all on Google Docs. I kind of like got bored with just using docs, even with for my students. So I started experimenting around and just trying to use different platforms to see how that works. And the students love it. I love it. It allows me to be a little more creative. So I did list different platforms that you could use, like Google Slides and Buncee and Skyslearn, ThingLink. Padlet is awesome for this. Nearpod is great. So is Pear Deck, Wakelet, Seesaw. And if you have any other ideas, you could go ahead and list those in the chat or unmute yourselves and let me know. But these are the main ones that I love to use and mix up. Now, I'll say that first time out, Canvas or LMS, yes, absolutely. Google Sites, good, Patty. Thank you for that. I'll go ahead and add both of those, Ms. Dirks and Patty, to the list. Um, I would say like when you're first starting out with students, again, sticking with Google Docs for a while. And then once they get used to this idea and they understand your expectations of them controlling their learning and maneuvering it, then start to, if you want, you don't have to, but I always find it's fun to use other platforms to create my HyperDocs. And so I have included some examples on this Wakelet for you to take a look at. You can also use them. So the first one is a Google Doc. Now it's actually a lesson plan. Now, here we go. I'm going to give you some more tidbits. If you are a K-12 teacher in, I believe even admin could go. I just want to make sure I got the link correct. Yeah, it is. All right. So the first thing I'm going to put is the Gilderlerman. Oh, it didn't go as a link. Um, if you are not familiar with the Gilderlerman, you can sign your school up for free. What am I doing? I'm like just messing up. Why is it not changing? I think I tried to put it in the chat and it didn't work. There you go. Thank you, Raul. Okay, so definitely check out the Gilderlerman and then the NEH. I'll put that one also there. So Gov. So what the Gilderlerman and the NEH.gov do is they actually host teacher institutes in the summer. For the Gilderlerman, they're week-long institutes. For the NEH, they do anywhere from 1 week to 4 weeks. The Gilderlerman, most of their, or I should say all of their teacher institutes are in the United States. The NEH, they do host in the United States as well as in Europe. They're all about like history They're really about like pouring back into teachers. And all of this is free to you. So they help you with your flight. They help fly you out to that space. It's usually, so I did one, let's see, this lesson plan, history or happiness, changing icon. So this is a lesson plan that I did when I participated it was for civil rights and I think this one I did in New Orleans. And so we stayed at Tulane. So you get to stay on campus. So it's at a nearby college. I've done one in New York with Gilder Lemon, and it was about Hamilton and the founding fathers. And so we stayed at NYU. So you get to live that dorm life again, comfy beds. It reminds me where I'm like, yes, I only did this for 4 years. There's a reason. And so you stay on campus, which they again provide for you to do so. And so what it is, like half the day you're in lecture with like an expert professor. They might even bring in speakers that they're familiar with, but half the day is done like you've got some books that they'll send you that you need to read or some articles. So they'll come in and talk about those. And then the second half of the day, you actually go out into the city and you're looking at those landmarks and you're going into those spaces that you've been learning about. And the idea is that like as a teacher, you're there to like, you definitely want to bring your camera. If you have a 360 camera, you bring that as well. Like you bring all these things. So the idea is that you're going to take this all back to your students. Of course, when I do that, my students were like, oh my God, you were there. And I'm like, not when it happened. Like, you have to have that conversation, which then leads to another conversation, right? Because then I'm like, how do you think I really am? So you're like bringing this back to life with your students. And now you've got your own primary sources that you can use in the classroom in addition to all the other primary sources. So they give you a plethora of resources to then use in the classroom. Part of after that week-long institute is that during that time, you are actually planning the lesson that you're going to present on that last day when you're there, and you're going to share that with all the other teachers who are also there. They usually cap it between like 20 to 30 teachers, which is nice because now you've got this small cohort that you get to network with and learn and connect, and you're doing all this, all this great learning that's going on in that week's time. And you're like, again, living that dorm life and you're doing all these other things in the city that you get to connect with teachers. And again, it's for K-12. I know there's some admin who go too, which is always fascinating when we have like a couple of admin in our group. But you present these lessons and then you have access to everyone else's lessons as well, which is really nice. So when I go, last summer was the first time that it wasn't in person for obvious reasons. So everything was virtual, which was really nice. That was a change. I was doing it virtually. This coming summer, they're also doing everything virtually. So they just had applications, I think, yeah, it already passed, where you had to apply to participate in the sessions again. And they've changed it up a little bit because it's in person. Because it's virtual. But what I love to do is you can create like this whole lesson plan, which I do that because at the time I was teaching 5th grade. And so you'll notice here that I have like 4 different hyperdocs that I created. And so you have access to those as well, where you can click on the links and it'll take you to the actual lesson. And you can make copies of those and use them as you see fit if you want to take a look at this lesson. But the whole idea is that there's this great resource where you can go for the summer if you're able to get away for a week. And I love it because my family supports me in that I get to go. The nice thing too is that you can apply to Gilder Lehrman and the NEH, and you can do both. So that's always nice. So you can go 2 different places for 2 weeks in the summer, which I've done that a couple of times and it's really nice. So like I'll be in New York for one, and then I'm going to like DC for another one. Also, Another place that hosts teacher institutes is Monticello. So if you, again, if you just love history, and you don't even have to teach history to go, but they really want to have you like create lessons, bring it back to your students, bring it back to your teachers. Even as a coach, I still get to go because then I'm creating the stuff and I'm bringing it back to the masses. They also encourage you to present the lessons that you're doing. But Monticello also has one that's a week-long institute, and they do the same thing. Like the whole time you're working on this lesson, which really nice is because then you stay at UVA, but you get to access the Monticello grounds at your leisure. So that way you're creating this lesson. So that's there for you to take a look at. And I love, again, when I'm doing this, I love creating HybridDocs from my lesson, which, other people are like, oh my God, what is this? So then we take time out so that way I can explain what that is when I'm there. I've included one that I've created on Buncee that you can take a look at. And it walks students through this process again. I included one from where I used it on Google Slides. And you can see that where every student will have their own slide or their whole set of slide, right? And they're going through the process on their own and together. There's an example for SkiesLearn. There's one here for Padlet. I've also included one where I've created on Nearpod. And then here's one that I've used on Wakelet. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to take a look at those, and then I'll give you like 2 minutes and then we'll come back. Go ahead and take a look at those. Let's see, I know I just had someone join. For those of you that just joined, I've just placed the link for the presentation in the chat for you to access. And if you scroll up, you'll come to the part where it says platforms and examples. Go ahead and take a look at the examples that I placed there for you to access. I need to turn that off. If you have any questions at this time, go ahead and place them in the chat, or you can unmute yourselves. I actually want to add. Google Sites and Canvas. Thank you for that information, Patty. So Patty did place in the chat that a great place to find HybridDocs is in the HybridDoc Facebook group. No problem, Billy. I'm glad that you were able to join us. Yes, they see. So on the Padlet, students would actually just respond right there and they can see each other's responses. Yeah, it's fun. One way is like you can just have it all laid out there in one fell swoop, or you can do it in chunks, right? Like you can give them time even if it's like, here's the other thing, like those first times that you use those different platforms, it's always great to like walk students through it step by step. So you can also do that on the Padlet or even like on the Google Slides or on the Nearpod. But yeah, the students love the variety what I offer to them. right. So now we're gonna move, if we can make your way back to the Wakelet, the presentation. Now we're gonna move to the next part where I've also linked some primary source resources. You'll notice I have this list that's here. They all are hyperlinked, so that way you can go to the actual website. So I've listed a couple: Library of Congress, the NEH, the Smithsonian Learning Lab. You've got Mount Vernon, Fordham, Huntington Library, Monticello, UCLA. It's the History Project. You've got the National Civil Rights Museum. This photographer has some great images that he's been taking, especially during the BLM rallies that people have been participating in. You got history.com. If you know of any others that we can add to this list, by all means, also put that in the chat and I can add this here. I've also included some curations that I've done. So here's one for a Wakelet collection that has Black writers in American history. I've got one where someone actually did this whole thing on Twitter about John Lewis right when he passed away. And so I was able to take those tweets because they included so many primary sources and information that I was able to curate them into a Wakelet as well. I have another space here on a Wakelet where I've included some primary sources, and then also a group that I work with, Equity in Action California. We've done a lot of curating of resources and we're always updating that space. So I'm going to give you time to go ahead and look at some of those. And again, if you know of some sites that have great primary sources, if you would include those in the chat and I can add those to this Wakelet as well, that would be super helpful. So go ahead and take a look at those. Good morning, Cheryl. I'm placing the link to the presentation in the chat for you. The other thing I like to point out too is that these sites are also good for students to use. So what's nice is that like you could even do a search, right? If you go to Library of Congress and you do a search, then you can type in, let's say that you're doing women's suffrage movement, right? You can type that in and it will curate this whole list of primary sources. What's nice is then you can take that link and then include that on the HyperDoc. So let's say that you are focusing on, you know, theme, and you gave them a primary source that you wanted them to like, you know, note what theme. So let's say I've done this with like Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, right? I had students go through it and then mark the themes that they notice. And then from those themes, I had them like, okay, choose one of those themes. Here's the link to, you know, some primary sources that I've curated for them, like from one of these sites. Also, maybe I've already curated them for them on a Padlet or on a Jamboard, or maybe in a Wakelet. And so I want them to go ahead and search through those and find like 4 images that match up to that theme that they've gone on ahead and said that they wanted to focus on from Dr. King's speech that would show evidence as to, you know, that supports the theme that they've chosen, and then have them like write out why they chose those images. What evidence do they have that's there in those images that says like, yes, it supports this theme and here's why. So switching it up so that way you're not always, again, you're not doing the heavy load, right? Because the one who's doing that is the one who's doing all the learning. And so giving students a chance to also interact with these websites, to take a look at those primary sources. The responses that I get from students as they're searching through and they're telling each other like, oh my God, you should see this. And, you know, did you see this primary source? Like it really is inspiring. And it's just, again, as a teacher, you love for your students to have those moments and really engage with it. And so again, it's really helping them to own what they're doing. Family search catalog is loaded with free materials by events, places. Oh, awesome. Is it just a family? What did you say? Family search? Here we go. I'll add that. Thank you so much. So I'll add that to the list. It's going down. That'd be nice. It's like if my internet is getting tired now. Okay, here we go. Let's head out. Oh, awesome, Greg. I'm so glad that you could join us. Enjoy the rest of your day. Has a wiki that is looking for, not just items in its catalog. Awesome. Thank you, Billy. All right, so I'm going to put it here. Let's see. Awesome. Thank you for that. All right, so now that I've given you time with the places that house these primary sources, now HyperDoc location. So earlier, I one of the tips again, if this is your first time or your student's first time, those first couple HyperDocs just have like 3 of those parts. The other thing is, and some of you had this question when we did the Notice and Wonder about like, how much time will it take? How do I even start with one? My suggestion, and this is how I even started, and I found it was very helpful, is to use HyperDocs that are already out there. And so I've included a link, and I know earlier, I believe it was Billy or Steve. Let's see, someone, oh, Patty. Patty suggested earlier that you could join a HyperDoc Facebook group. Awesome, thank you, Billy. I'll add that. I'll be sure to add that to the list. But I've included a place here that has samples of HyperDocs. They've revamped this a lot recently, but now they've set up these HyperDocs by topics. And so my suggestion is either come and use one of these or come and take a look, so that way you can get some ideas about building your own. Again, when I first started using them, I used someone else's. What's nice again is that, they're here, you can make a copy of that. So remember, don't do request edit access. Go ahead and go to file, make a copy. When you do that, again, I strongly advise you that even if you are using one that's already been created, to go ahead and take away some of the parts. Again, we don't want to overwhelm our students in that we're asking them to do something new. So you can definitely take away some of these pieces, so that way you are starting off with like 3 of those parts, or maybe 4. You could even do it so that way you're doing half and half. So you do half the parts one day on one, then you duplicate that, and then you do the other half the next day. Thank you, Patty, for that link. But definitely come here. Now, what I always do remind teachers, just like I remind students, about like giving credit where credit is due, right? So even if you take one of these HyperDocs and you manipulate and you modify it to fit the needs of your students, I always suggest, like at the bottom, saying originally created by, if that person, usually the person will include their name. So like this was created by Carly Mora, that you go ahead and you can say like originally created, and then you can put that you modified it on this day. So that way it's now yours, but you took this idea from someone else. So I always remind people to just give credit. We want to be respectful, responsible digital citizens. And so, but But again, you have access to this entire site where you can look by topic, borrow these HyperDocs, and then you can use them to fit the needs of you and your students. So I want to give you time to go ahead and explore that because there's a lot of information there. But go ahead, take a look at the samples that are there, find a lesson, find more than one lesson that you want to use, and then share at least one of those here on this .storming platform. So you're going to come to this space. You'll notice that some participants have already shared like the ones that they really liked, but take a look at this site, find some samples. Oh, you're so welcome, Raul. But this is always a great place to start. See what others are doing. And then I always say when you're starting your own, always start off with your essential question and then start from the end with the end in mind, right? So go ahead, I'm gonna give you about like 5 minutes to, because it's a lot. Go ahead and explore this, find some, make a folder right now where you wanna link them, keep them, stash them, and then share at least one that you found on the .storming. Good morning, those of you that are joining us. Our moderator, thank you, has so graciously placed the link to the presentation in the chat. It will bring you to a Wakelet. The Wakelet moves in a linear fashion. And so you want to find your way. We are at the section where it says HyperDoc locations. So at this moment, we're spending about 5 minutes looking at this link of samples of HyperDocs. It will bring you here. You can go ahead and see some HyperDocs, find at least one that you would like to use. And then you can share on this .storming a link that you found that was helpful. In the meantime, if you have questions, you can place those in the chat. Also in the chat, several participants have shared some resources. I've added most of them to this Wakelet for you to access. Let me see, maps. I'm gonna add the David Ramsey one. I'm gonna go over here and do it. I'll mess that one up. Thank you. And I'm going to add the Facebook group that you suggested, Patty. Thank you. For those of you that are just joining us, the moderator has placed the link to the chat. Paste the link to the presentation in the chat, and it will bring you to a Wakelet for the presentation. It works in a linear fashion, so you want to scroll to the bottom. We are currently at the spot where it says HyperDoc locations. You can go ahead and click on the link that says samples. It will bring you to a site where you can have access to all these different HyperDocs that teachers have shared. Go ahead and find one or more that you want to use. And then if you wouldn't mind sharing the lesson that you found, you'll click on this link with this dot storming. Ooh, I love this one, the intro to poetry, especially right now because it's National Poetry Month. Awesome. And so we have about 1 more minute before we'll move on to the next part. And if you have any questions, you can either place them in the chat or unmute yourselves. You're welcome. Thank you for joining. All right, so thank you for sharing those that you found. Again, that's a great resource, so please make sure that you save that link so that you have access to those HyperDocs. And so the last part is just reflection for you. I've set up this reflection space on Wakelet, so if you click that link, and I'm always interested to know what is your wow, your how, and your now. So your wow is your big takeaway. Your how is a burning question that you may still have. And your now is a personal challenge for yourself. Again, to add to a collaborative Wakelet, you want to come to the edit. And you're going to click the plus sign. And then click, the directions are here, click on the add text. Go ahead and it'll make a text box for you. Type out what's your wow, how, and now. In the meantime, if you have any questions or tidbits that you want to share, you can add those in the chat or unmute yourselves. Otherwise, I appreciate you all for coming and sharing this time together. I hope that you're so welcome, Gloria. I hope that you were able to take away at least one thing to help. Again, if this is your first time, your student's first time, please don't overwhelm yourself or them. Just start off with like 3 pieces of that HyperDoc. Definitely use those resources where you can get HyperDocs already. But definitely when you're ready, then move into like trying out your own. I hope that me giving you the list of like resources that you can access that helps take away some of that time for you having to go and search. But please have fun with it. And again, thank you for being here. You're so welcome, Billy. I hope that you find it helpful. And again, if you all have any questions later on that you have, my information is here at the top I can be reached on Twitter. My email address is there as well. But I would love to connect with you and see what you're creating. You're so welcome, Mark. Thank you. Awesome. And so for those of you that are interested, our moderator placed that the recordings will be posted as soon as they have time to pull them all together. So you'll be notified. You are so welcome, Patty. Thank you for coming.